Hello, everybody. Hey, and welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen. It is Jeff Widgren, and I'd like to welcome you out. We meet here every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern. We come together, we share our successes, our challenges. Sometimes those challenges turn into live tests in kind of a workshop style, and we bound to have somebody on the panel who is able to help provide a solution from their experience or knowledge, and we just have a good time. Sometimes I think the earliest we've ever broke is maybe an hour and 45 minutes long. Longest, I believe, is 4.5 or 5.5 hours, believe it or not. It gets long. Thins down towards the end, but just depends on what's going on, how many challenges there are. So welcome out. With that, I want to say hello to everybody who's here now as others continue to roll in. We are streaming live on our YouTube channel, Zoom Test Kitchen. Feel free to tune in there if you can't jump in the Zoom meeting live at times. Subscribe as well so you get notifications when we go live as well. And the archives are kept there. We're also streaming to our Facebook page and group just to make it convenient for everybody. So we're doing all that in 1080 inside the Zoom meeting, thanks to the DVE store. Guy Cochran over there has been very generous and helpful along the way to prove to the world and help us prove to the world that 1080 is absolutely achievable and looks great inside of Zoom. The sound, the audio with original sound on. Hopefully that sounded good. Some of you, before we started streaming, got to hear some different music that is copywritten, but once we were going to transition to streaming, we changed that over to the traditional copyright-free music that has just become our signature, if you will. So with that, let me say hi to Ray Franklin first. How are you, Ray? You're able to talk
Good.
this week. Your vocals are all healed.
Total vocal rest for a speech coach is a bad thing, but I've come out the other side of it. Thanks.
Fantastic. Glad to have you here. And you were here last week. Just had to be muted while your vocals recovered. So glad that has gone well. David, how are you, David?
I'm really great. How you doing, Jeff?
Good, good, good. I
Good.
think of David, and I think of eCam. He's our
my
eCammer.
man. That's
He's
my thing.
out there doing it every day. So yeah, if you need any answers to questions or guidance or whatnot, David Paskin is definitely the one for eCam Productions. He does a great job with several different shows that you're a part of and host yourself and so forth. So
Yeah, and
why don't you?
my new
Yeah, go
adventure
ahead.
is using Zoom ISO to bring in guests from Zoom into eCam. So figuring that thing out is kind of interesting.
Are you doing that via NDI or hardware?
Yeah, yeah, no,
NDI?
via NDI. Yep.
Very good. Working well so far?
Yeah, it is. I need to make the grabbing the video. So you can only grab video via NDI. So grabbing the video and bringing that back out of Zoom into eCam back into Zoom gets it all out of sync with the audio. So what I really need to do is put those Zoomers into a breakout room, I think,
Yeah.
and then grab both the audio and the video and bring it back in and produce it
Gotcha.
out. But yeah.
Gotcha. Does ISO work in a breakout room? Have you tried it yet?
That's my next question. I don't know. We can try it here if you want.
Yeah. You feel free to do so. I will be pleasantly surprised. I think I tried it, but that was a ways back. So I'm not going to make any real strong predictions. I'm not going to put any bets down on it like this weekend Super Bowl. There's some crazy bets out there. As far as it's like Somebody was going over it here on one of our local radio stations, and as you know, is the halftime show, is she gonna come out in fur or non-fur? You know, it's like what, or what kind of sneakers are they gonna be wearing, or just crazy. So, anyways, hey, may as well have a good time, I guess. But hey, Joe, how are you?
Hey Jeff, how are you today? Hanging in
Doing
there
really
also.
well. Doing really well.
Just want to let you guys know, I spent a couple of days this week learning Cinedeck recording hardware. It's kind of fun stuff. If anybody's interested in that or knows or uses that sort of thing.
Good deal.
I've been enjoying the learning process. Something new.
Cinedeck. Want to put a link in the chat if you wouldn't mind to it, so anybody who wants to take a peek at it can.
All right, I can do that.
Very good. I'm saying hi to those on camera. If you want to jump in and say hello, feel free to, even if it's intermittently, turn on your camera. But George Butters is next. Welcome back, George.
Jeff, how are you today?
Doing very well.
Great.
Really well. It's nice here in the Midwest. Supposed to get cold this weekend, but right now I think it's in the 50s. So I will deal with that in February.
Well, we got through the freezing rain. It was hideous, but the sun is shining today, and I'm slightly disheveled because what you do here on a sunny day is go out and haul more wood inside for the next month. So.
Yeah, be prepared. That's right. Stephen Burchard,
Burchard, actually. But yeah.
Burchard, welcome.
Thank you.
Very good. You do virtual productions? I was going to say magic, but it's just magical memories. So are you the entertainer or the producer?
Both. More nowadays, more the producer end of it. But I have a roster of virtual entertainers, games, activities, experiences, stuff like that.
Very good. Very good. Glad to have you here. Is this your first time here?
No, last week I was the one that popped out and said I had to go do a bingo night.
Yeah. There we go. And Kuhn is here. Hello, Kuhn.
Hi, good evening. 9
Welcome.
p.m. over here. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Yeah, doing really well.
Great.
And I don't have any other cameras on, but we've got Jeremy, who we know, Matthew, Talon, Steve, and Jill. Everybody, welcome. What, anybody have, always kind of lay it open for, contributions from those attending. Hi, Jeremy, and, either successes or challenges or new finds, new discoveries, things like that. Anything anybody wants to throw out there on the table? Nothing. It was one of those days I got to dig in my pocket and say, what have I got? All right. So instead I'll ask, and feel free to chime in on either side, question or answer. You can contribute either way. And what I'm talking about is just some pop-up questions. What's the easiest way to obtain HD in Zoom? One of the most common, thoughts out there. Anybody, as far as a response to that? Go ahead, David.
Ask. It's that
Simply
simple.
ask.
People are surprised that, their question, why do I have to, if they're going to just give it to everyone, why wouldn't they just give it to everyone? But it's not quite that simple. But if you just contact your Zoom rep, in fact, I can throw in the, I'll throw in the chat the link to exactly where to do this. It's support.zoom. Well, I'll just put it in the, I'll put it in the chat for everyone. Exactly what to do here.
Yeah, it's become that because it hasn't always been as simple as just ask, right? I mean, during the height of COVID, at the very beginning of COVID, is when their group HD paragraph that I described became something, and then it was the paragraph that described that everybody's going to everybody's subscription will begin at, basically it translates to this, at 360p, and including the higher end accounts. The higher end accounts, you got your free, you've got your pro, you've got your business, and your education for the four primary levels of accounts. And did I say education enterprise as well? And so with that, it was a strain, because I mean the majority, I would guess that the majority of the subscriptions are in fact free and pro type accounts, and I'll just say it was fairly easy for a business account to get 720. It's very easy for enterprise to get 720, and it's pretty easy probably in enterprise because you're spending a lot of money there to obtain 1080. But it was a method that Zoom, which just scaled immediately, almost overnight, to being the most popular conference software out there, solution out there for the world. They had to find a way, and resolution was to scale and support in the meantime, if you will. So, but now that time's passed, it really has become pretty simple. We had very creative ideas, purchase a Facebook portal or an Amazon Echo or a Zoom room, and have the Zoom room, any of those devices or Zoom rooms, join your meeting, and that would bump it up to 720. And that recommendation isn't even a have to any longer as well. Just simply write support. If you've got a paid account, a free account, I don't know that is going to pull it off, but a pro account and above, just write support or talk to your rep and ask them to enable 720 HD. And 720 is great. I mean, 720 is 100% improvement over 360, right? Where it is only half again the improvement from 720 to 1080, and so they make that pretty straightforward these days. So just submit it and ask, and I'm pretty darn confident we've heard it from Sam inside of Zoom. Say it right here in the Zoom Test Kitchen 3 times. Just write and ask, and you'll get it. So, if you really, really, really need 1080, he says, they can turn that on for specific events if you have a kind of a lower grade license. But you can get 1080 on the business and enterprise too. Ray, you had your hand up there.
Jeff, you didn't click record. I just clicked record because I didn't notice it was happening.
I appreciate that. I'm recording in vMix, which is kind of my backup as well, but I did not intentionally forget to, so I appreciate you jumping on that. And I was poking around on records today, actually, and we'll look at that. How many of you? I mean, I know a lot of people have Zoom record their either events or meetings or sessions. How many of you, in fact, experience recording with Zoom often?
I have a question for you about records, actually.
Yeah.
I just noticed when Ray hit record, it popped up in the notification, but it didn't announce recording.
Correct.
There's
an option on the back end in your Zoom portal that enables you to either enable an audible announcement or not. You can turn that off, and I've turned off that audio announcement. You can also take a look. Let me.
Yeah, where is that?
let me just kind of jump into my test kitchen mode and share. Remember to share.
Settings, recording.
Yeah.
Recording notifications. The bottom.
Yeah, I will go there. So there's the share, and this is under settings, not the meeting settings, but the recording settings. And then let's see. Yeah, recording notifications. right here. So you can show a disclaimer, which is the pop-up that you saw. I can't turn that off completely. And I can just say do it to everybody. But if you're in a, a corporate account in an organization where, 60% of you are in the org and 40% that are attending are outside the Zoom account organization, you don't have to, hit everybody internally. You can just hit those folks. That's the guest who's outside your organization. They'll see that. And then the voice prompt is what's right below it, and that's what you were asking about. You can send out the audible to all participants or to those folks outside your organization or to no one. They actually allow you to turn that off. And then you can have the host confirm. So when Frank or Ray Franklin, I still can't stop saying Frank. It's so weird that you did that just one time, and now I'm stuck on calling you Frank. To confirm, so that if you kind of have an accidental bump or a non-intended start or stop, then you can get a confirmation there before it actually starts recording or stops as well. There's another one in here. How many? Let me start this one with a question. How many of you, no matter the role, whether it's often I'll run into it, freelance role, whether it's your responsibility or different mods, who's on the show, have forgotten to turn on the record, just like I did on the show today, and it either gets started late or when the show is over, the producer says, okay, go ahead and upload the records too, or whatever. And you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to record, because your call time is like an hour early, and you don't want to record all that up front. And then you get busy with clients coming in and tech checks and so forth, and you forget to get that record turned back on. Anybody been there? No one's going to admit it? There we go. A few hands. Dev, I've been there. There's no question. I thought I was going to get fired.
Because of this, I tend to have a second record that I start to the call time, and then do the original record during the event, or forget it, and then I have one backup. I only have to cut it.
Well, and here's part of its attitude, philosophy, and I just don't turn on. I today I did in the kitchen, but as far as when I'm on a job, I just don't turn the record off. If it auto starts, it's just going to roll. It's not my problem to have to trim or post edit or whatnot. That's it's my job to make sure that there's a recording, and so with that, but there's a option here. If I can find it, yeah, host can pause, stop the auto record. Host. So if you uncheck that, you cannot pause. Even the host cannot pause or stop the recording. And so when you schedule the meeting and you say record to the cloud in the scheduled meeting, and it auto starts when you start the meeting, even the host can't stop or pause it, which is solid. Like it really gets around. So then I think what follows that is, some folks will share recordings. So if I go to recordings, and let's say here's one from last week. 50 files got recorded in the cloud for the Zoom Test Kitchen. Why? Why 50?
Well, you have also the gallery view, you have the speaker, the shared screen. All those get separately.
Yeah.
Oh, were you
Most of
doing
those,
audio
though,
files
are,
separated?
Most of these I've got 2 files. If I go back further,
Did you turn on the ISO audio?
14, 15, yeah. There's a new feature, and we've talked about it just once so far, is ISO records in the cloud now, and so that's what's making up this large quantity as well, is are the ISOs of each individual that was in the meeting as well. So I had a start and a stop. There's just a small, beginning, and then here's the real meeting. And then here's the audio file of each participant, and you've got that as well. So with that, under the, is it settings? Recordings? It's always finding these options, right? Trying to find the ISO. Yeah, here we go. So this is fairly new. Is record a separate audio file of each participant in the cloud. The only way you could do this before was locally, right? If you needed ISO records, you had to have somebody designated to record locally and to make sure that they set that ISO record option. Locally, I'll just keep kind of banging away and pose a lot of things as questions. What's the maximum number of ISO records you can do when you're recording locally? Anybody know? I think I know, but I'm going to have to go look and confirm. I think it's 30, might be more. Record a separate audio file. So if I pull this over, record a separate audio file of each participant. Actually, it's 80, and I don't know if that's increased over time or not, but it's 80 locally. How many can you record now in the cloud? Anybody want to take a guess? 200. So you can get up to 200 participants. You can't designate who. so if you have a group, I moderated a meeting last Saturday. I do it every Saturday, that had like 910 people in a single meeting. So ISO records wouldn't have been real useful there, and so they're not turned on. But this is a new feature. This is very recently released, and so now you know that you can get those as well. The other part that I wanted to point out on these options that we've talked about up to this point, which is having the record auto start, and if you chose to uncheck that option, that won't even allow the host to stop or pause, so that you can guarantee that you'll have a recording in the cloud. Then what if you plan on sharing the recording out? Do you download and distribute? Do you download and put it up on YouTube? Do you download so you can post edit? And even if it's just trim the beginning, trim the end, there's a lot of different practices, but I would encourage you to try to spend some time under the recordings, because it's improved over time. Up top, you can in your recording settings, you can make viewing recordings an on-demand feature, and when it's on demand, you can set up registration. This is not, I have registration turned on for the Zoom Test Kitchen, but this is not the same registration. This is registration very specific to just viewing the recording, and so you can automatically approve it, manually approve it. These options should be, anybody who's set up registration for a meeting, these are very, very recognizable. The questions, the data that you want to ask for and optionally require it or not, and then any custom questions as well. And so you can set that registration up. Requiring the registration, you can come in anytime and view the registration, if it's pending manual approval, if it's automatically approved or been manually approved, and then denied as well. And then you can take a look at that report at any given time as well. When you share things out, you can do this first, is you can go in to view, kill that, and realize this, so I clicked on the shared screen with speaker view version of this recording, which is that first one. And actually, that's not the one. Trying to determine which one this is. Because by default, I don't know if this is one of, I think this is their default layout now. But anyways, there's, you can, in the player, you can switch from speaker view to gallery view, which is very beneficial. I think same recording, and the viewer can do that. They can manage the playback speed. They can turn on closed captioning or not. So if I take that up to a spot, you can see the closed captioning can be turned on or off. So that's optional.
Is
and
that
then there's
is the closed captioning only if they if you have it set, or is that all?
You have, yeah, in the settings you have to have, you know, closed captioning enabled and so forth, and so I have it enabled, and I always save, you know, the VTT file as well, just in case I want it up on YouTube. But you can see it's there and available, but it's not burnt in like when you stream it and so forth. It's burned in unless you manually upload it to YouTube with a VTT file beside it. But then there's this other one that says set playback range. And so this says viewers will be able to watch the recording only within the playback range. And it says it won't affect the original recording, so it's not, you know, permanently trimming the beginning or the end. And so you can, it's just giving you that information there. So now I can, you know, trim the beginning to whatever time and playback moment I want. And then I can trim the end as well. And these are just steps, so you can get a little bit of precision on the beginning and the end. And then when you save it, you're good to go. And so it says this will not affect the original recording. Again, if you enable downloads, viewers will have access to the full-length recording in all relevant files. So when they download it, they won't download a trimmed version, but if because you can disable downloading and only allow viewing, and so if you limit it to viewing from the cloud-hosted Zoom archive, then you're just fine. But if you go through all this effort and allow downloading, just realize they're going to get the untrimmed version of that at the end. Does that all make sense? I think they've really stepped it up, you know, quite a bit in the sense of giving us a lot more flexibility without having to go, you know, through the whole process of downloading it and post-editing it and so forth. Because one thing you can't do is you can't post-edit it and put it back up on Zoom Cloud to make it viewable, and only the originals are. Okay. So I'm gonna stop that share for now. Any other experiences, practices in records that is a part of your workflow?
George has his hand up.
Yeah, George, thank you.
Yeah, a bunch of things, if I might. I'll just go back to my notes. Some use cases about recordings. I edit, so less is more. I come out of a broadcasting background, and the rule is pretty simple. If you don't turn on record, don't bother coming back to the station unless you just want to pick up your gear in your car. That's just how it works. So we do a tech test. Then I always insist on having a short pre-show. And the pre-show has checklist templates that we use. And one of the things on the template, and it's on two people's run a show checklists, is turn on record. The issue of the host not being able to stop or pause a recording, I do a bunch of stuff where I'm teching for a client. So I'm a third party coming in, and they want to make sure they have a recording. So typically what will happen is in the handover, the original host will start the recording and then turn over to host to me and might do a few introductory remarks and then leave. So that gives them confirmation that I won't turn anything off. Because we're dealing with privacy issues in a lot of cases, having the announcement of the recording for those instances is not just a good idea. In some cases, it's a legal requirement that we give people that announcement. And finally, there is in fact a way to upload edited items to Zoom.
Oh yeah? Absolutely.
I've been doing it for months. So basically what I'll do is get where I have a situation where I'm going to share. And I hate that like 4.5 minutes of nothing before you actually get to the event. And there's a lot of that online. So what I'll do is I'll download all the pieces, do a cut, put in supers, titles, slates, whatever. And then I render that. Then I start a Zoom webinar. Okay. And I feed the video
playing the pre-record back into a newly recorded meeting.
That's exact meeting or webinar. That's exactly what I do. Now, the only downside of that is that you have a new Zoom link. So the old link is not going to work. So if you had people register for the previous one, that registration is not going to carry over. I haven't tested it in events, but it very well may work in Zoom events. So I can put fully edited pre-records in as a meeting. Anyway, just a few thoughts. And
I would add, another downside in my world would be it's a real-time process versus an upload, you know, and so the time consumption would be challenging in some jobs and maybe not so challenging. It's just, you know, start it and go to bed and be done that way. But yeah, totally get it. So yeah, very creative approach to it. Yeah, new link, but definitely.
If the client wants it, Jeff, the client's always right, as we know. As far as, you know, asking me to do more work. Absolutely happy to do it.
Well, you know, and then there's those clients that will say, you know, we have to have this available 30 minutes after the meeting or the event, you know, concludes. And go, that process doesn't lend itself. So therefore, if they had requirements that cause that, I mean, how do you replay? How do you download, post edit, and upload in real time within 30 minutes a 2-hour event that you just did? You know,
no, you can't. You can come really close. You know, I mean, I've seen days walking into the station at 5:30 and having a piece on top of the news at 6. You just make it happen. And that's where if you know there's going to be a fast turnaround required, the less I have to deal with, the better. All I want to do is top and tails, trim that thing. If there have to be supers, you know, if it's the CEO talking, then yeah, the CEO wants his name on the screen when he's talking, at least at the beginning and the end. If all of that stuff is prepared in advance, you'd be surprised how fast you can turn stuff around when your life depends on it.
Yep. Yep, very good. Thanks for the share. Stephen?
So I kind of want to switch directions on this. The remote control feature, anybody use it? Anybody have any experience with it? How it works? Anything like that?
The new one or the regular one?
Just the regular one. Just allowing people to...
Are you talking about in kind of a support role so I can have remote control of your system, or for PowerPoint, driving PowerPoints? Or?
So I'll give you my use case. So I mentioned I do games and stuff. So one of our games is in a virtual escape room that we run, and it'd be lovely. I've never done it, but conceptually I like the idea for other participants to be able to access the game through the system, because we always use one screen share and then everybody kind of talks through it. But it'd be cool if I can let other people access the screen and actually use it. An idea.
Yeah, so we've got...
I would use something else like TeamViewer.
Okay.
To be honest, just doesn't work the greatest for that type of support role, and then everybody sees what's being shared, and you lose the ability to do multiple shares if you have that turned on. So I don't know how much that's utilized, but I use that a ton for my ISO records. So.
Well, and it's still it's single user mouse, if you will, So if you had from let's say I give you control of my desktop, you and I will battle with my mouse, let alone multiple accesses and so forth as well. So I'm not sure how well that would work. George?
My son uses it for one-on-one tech support. Right, so he can have a client do show and tell, but he can also take over their computer. I'm guessing that it's hands off for them. I don't know if there's kind of mouse conflicts that go on. I've heard of instances that people have reported it, but I know he uses it like pretty much 3-4 times a week.
Yeah, it certainly it can be handy, but depending on what the tech support is all about, right? Is if I'm getting a text or a message from a different platform because I'm having trouble connecting to the meeting, then Zoom remote support, remote control kind of requires you to be in the meeting. So it's not that support, but it's a tool certainly can be used as a tool for support as well. And you can there's two types. I'm starting to pull it up a little bit, but two types of remote access versus like full remote control, and so you can limit some access to how much control, like to somebody who has remote access versus remote control. I think is the difference. One can reboot your machine remotely, for instance, and the other one can't, and so it's just a matter of getting familiar with those options. Haven't used them lots. And the fact is people who have with like slide presentations, to allow the speaker to drive their own prezos, but you to own it. It's been remote control up to this point. Those that want to exercise all that kind of within Zoom, until recently. And that was the whole battle of the mouse thing. You do it on a separate computer, and if you know the rules, you can go ahead and offer remote control to the speaker, and they can have control. But if you don't know the rules, and they're speaking for the next 45 minutes, and you're on that you're sharing from a computer that you want to, while you're bored to death because they're speaking, about a medical topic, for instance, you can't do anything on that computer without screwing them up, if you will, with remote control. Now there's presentation control, and that will just lend them the opportunity to drive slides forward and backwards, and it's not a giving of my mouse control and so forth. So that is successfully out there and tested and works well. We can, if anybody has an interest to review that, on with today, we can go over that again as well. It's not that we don't repeat things here, because we do. We have to. The audience changes often enough to where we can pop up a PowerPoint and show you what it looks like, and then we apply reality to it. I think the forward and the back button, compared to like an internet clicker, nice big green red buttons on a mobile device or a tablet or a desktop for internet clicker is great for speakers. Presentation control for built into Zoom is a very promising feature, but the experience are two little circular buttons on the bottom left side of their slides that they can click forward or click back on. And so I think the real estate is very small and somewhat subtle, but then you try to really leverage and tax the feature that how can we make that better? Because I'd rather somebody be able to bounce on their space bar or hit the tap on their right arrow key on their keyboard, a more prominent, easier to access type device or button. And as long as they click on that right arrow one time, just to make sure that it's advancing, they have the freedom, and we've tested that they can in fact do that. They can hit the right arrow key or the left arrow key on their keyboard. They can bounce on the space bar for the forward, and so there's those extended options of use as well. So works. I think it works really well. Lois, welcome, and you have your hand up. How are you?
Welcome. Sorry to be late getting here. You know how that is. Life gets in the way of all this fun stuff.
You bet.
I have a question. Since you have, we have to follow speaker's view on the screen here. Would you be so kind as to pin two people? I would like to see what it looks like from this end.
Pen or spotlight? Because you won't see
Not
pen.
spotlight, pin.
You won't
Because we're
see pen
following
either.
your view, and I want to find out if the pin's going to.
So
also gonna
following
follow
my when I've set follow host view, that is the gallery only, and it's never you'll never see a pin. A pin never gets shared, but I will satisfy the curiosity as well. So let me.
But if you move to speaker, don't we change to speaker as well?
Lois, I think it's the difference between a webinar and a meeting. In a webinar, you can say follow host view, and then the attendees see what the host wants to see them. But in a meeting, you can't.
So you're saying in a webinar, pinning would work?
Pinning is local. Spotlighting is not.
I know, but this
I'm not
whole
sure.
follow host's view, that's the only thing is just the arrangement of the gallery, nothing else. But Andre's saying that that's not true in webinar.
No,
It's
in
applied
webinar, you can-
differently as webinar. Yeah.
It's different.
In webinar, you can decide what view the panels, the attendees will see, but I don't know if they will see if you pin something, because pinning is usually only local.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that that's the way I thought it was, but I wanted to confirm that it doesn't work here in a meeting either.
Yeah. So what's going on in this meeting as far as what may have gained your attention is you may have tried to pen and so forth, and it said, you can't do this right now because you're on follow host order, right?
I was just trying to rearrange the squares, that's all.
Yeah. And so here on my top right corner, I'm in gallery view, as you can see, and I have follow host video order selected. And it's it's not so critical in the Zoom test kitchen, but in events, when there's, the other day when there were 900 plus people in this meeting, before we opened the waiting room, I adjusted the order of just one video, just one, the speaker, she was the author who everybody came to see, period. But, we also create, during this session, we create 100 breakout rooms, which is an add-on, by the way. 50 is the default. And if you need more than that in a meeting, just write support and ask them to enable. They call it BR for breakout rooms, BR 100. And they'll add the BR 100 feature to your account. And then in any meeting that you support, you can create up to 100 breakout rooms per meeting. And so, and I knew this is part of our event. When she departs to one of those breakout rooms and tours around and so forth, when everybody comes back and we've closed the breakout rooms, I can't find her. Like you can search the. She was at the top because we all met before everybody arrived, but that order is completely lost when everybody goes out to breakout rooms and comes back, and so and you just have pages and pages and pages of people when you have 900 plus folks in a meeting, and so. First thing I do is I drag her video up, which is what I have done with mine, is I put mine in the top left. And what I then did is now this is an option that is enabled behind the scenes, say is in the in your Zoom portal, is enabling the ability for the host to save gallery order, and this is a fairly new feature, and and once you have that enabled in the back end, then when you schedule meetings, let me pull this over real quick. Then when you schedule meetings with that feature enabled, you can, in your scheduling, it becomes a checkbox that's there. And it is, in this meeting, I want to allow the host to save the video order. And so you can enable it in the back end just once, and then per meeting, you can choose to enable the host to save that or not. And it's for this meeting ID. So I don't name it. I can just say, save the video order, and it's saved. There's one opportunity to save. I mean, I can save over if I make changes, but I don't have to name it. It's not like a file with multiple, hey, I want this layout or that layout or that layout. It's this gallery order for this meeting ID. So if it's a recurring meeting, when you come back to it next week, that saved video order will still be present and available. At that point, you could load that saved order, and or you could update it and then save it again to update the saved version. And then when you've got it loaded, you can either keep it for yourself, which I'll unleash the follow host, and now I'm only seeing the order. So it's only useful for me, the moderator of the meeting. So I know where the speaker is. No matter if they're all coming back from breakout rooms and she's lost, all I have to do is say, load saved order. Boom, she comes right back where she was prior to the breakouts. And now I can easily spotlight her and so forth accordingly. Now, those problems go away if you have Zoom OSC, for instance, and you've got her tagged by either name or a ID that is reusable and so forth. But this is kind of a Zoom only solution that has been recently released. Lois?
So if you saved the order, went to your breakout rooms, came back, some people have left. Now, when you say load the saved order, what's going to happen? I'm assuming it'll just go, if there's a blank spot, it'll move everybody up?
Yeah, just like those little shuffle puzzles. Yeah. So looks for Lois, should be in position 3. She's not here, therefore who now is going to fill that gap. And if I have more defined individuals who should be there, they'll just fill that spot for you.
So if I were in your situation before this new thing, which I think is wonderful, if you can't find someone on a multi-page thing, the unsophisticated way to do it is ask everybody to please turn off your video momentarily. Mary Lou, would you turn on your video? You've got non-video participants hidden. Pop, there she is, and then you can move things around. But that's a long way around. I'm glad they've got this saved order.
It's a long one, especially when you have hundreds of people, and in fact, this meeting in particular, it's just she's an author, very well-known author. People are thrilled to be there, and they want to be seen with her. And so it's probably the meeting that I moderate often that has the most cameras I've ever seen on in a meeting. Commonly it's the minority are on and the majority are off. This is totally opposite of that. It's like, wow, this is crazy. But the other one is, I like seeing the primary speakers in my first page of my gallery. And so that's why I'll leverage, the custom gallery order, and now I save it and so forth. But the other one is why I reshare it again is I can quickly go to the, participants panel and search for Lois. And now, even if there were 1,000 people listed there, now it's just filtered down quickly to Lois. and I can manage spotlights and so forth from here. Not my ideal location, but you know, when you have to, right? Because I can't search the gallery necessarily, so I can find her video to move it, but I can find you here and just go ahead and spotlight you, manage the show so it can continue. So it's I mean, the search in the participants is exceptionally fast, no doubt. If I type TAL for Talon, or if I type something in the middle, so Andre, his last name includes OEL. There it is, right smack out of the middle. You know, so it's a really fast, fuzzy search, and you know, like I said, not my ideal, but it certainly will get the job done under big groups in big pressure. Yeah, Lois.
So if you spotlight someone and they become large, then when you go back to gallery view, have they moved next to you because they're spotlighted, or they just stay in gallery view wherever they used to be?
Help me make sure I'm understanding that one correctly. So let me share. So nobody is spotlighted right now. And let me spotlight you. Okay, so you see, I'm sharing my gallery so everybody can see where you are. I'm going to spotlight you on the stream. It's large with the thumbnails across the top. And now I'm going to go ahead and spotlight Ken, and I'll add a spotlight. And so he doesn't end up moving. He actually leaves the gallery, the thumbnails, and comes out to the spotlight platform, if you will. But then the question might be is, if I remove, or when I remove, where does Ken end up? And he does fall back to where he came from in the gallery. But if I had breakout rooms open and sent Ken to a breakout room and then brought him back, he'll end up at the end of the gallery list as if he just joined the meeting. Okay.
I'm thinking more of if I have spotlighted someone and then I switch to gallery view, have they moved? That's what I was thinking, and I don't think that's true. I'm not spotlighted anymore.
Yeah, so I'm going to go on my screen. I'm going to go to speaker view. I see you large, just because I'm the one speaking, and it doesn't make me large on my screen, although I'm large on your screen. But now I'm gonna spotlight.
Well, that's interesting because I did see myself large on my
Oh,
screen.
did you?
Yeah.
You're not spotlit right now. Nobody is. But I was going to point out, I'm going to spotlight Michael. And if you go to, while Michael is spotlit, if you change back to gallery view, you'll see that he's in the top left corner.
Yes.
And there's a small, right next to his muted microphone is to me, it looks like a map thumbtack to a degree, but it's meant to be a spotlight as well. So it's very small, but it indicates that he is spotlighted. And I'll add my spotlight and jump back to gallery again. So I know the audience is seeing a side by side or top and bottom spotlight, dual spotlight, but
Unless
I
they
can go
change.
back to my own gallery, and I still have an indication. One, they're top left. Two, they both have that little spotlight icon on them as well.
So as the host, can you now, in your gallery view, move him next to you on the other side?
No.
Or can you not move him at all?
Reordering during, so I think I can share while I try this. I'll share. So here's my gallery view, but here's the indication that I have two people spotlit. And if I try to reorder, it'll tell me immediately I can't do that while there's a spotlight, when there's an active spotlight.
I thought maybe the host had special powers in that matter.
No. Yeah, and so I haven't tried this. I know I'm running two spotlights right now, and I know I have a saved video order. What if I tried to load a video order? It didn't bark at me, but it certainly didn't change necessarily what I have going on there as well. So I'll remove the spotlight. I had a pretty simple order though. Load. You know, let me change. Let me build an order for our active videos. So we've got 6 of you with videos that are on. I'm going to save that video order. Now I'm going to spotlight.
How about David, so we can
Cute
introduce
little,
to the baby?
oh, that's exactly where I was going. It's like, hey, let's
David,
find
tell
out
us
who
about that
our new
baby.
guest is.
Sorry, I don't have my ears in. This is Khalil. He is the son of one of my teachers. I run a preschool, and he came to school today.
Super
And so
cute.
he's visiting, saying hi. He's my buddy. Say hi.
And he likes microphones.
And he likes he's
yeah.
ready for Zoom. Ready for
That's
Zoom.
right. That's right. So now I know I have a saved video order of all 6, videos that are on. I've got 2 that are spotlit. I'm going to go back to the gallery, and now let's see what this load does. Yeah, it's not barking, but it's not doing anything. And the reason would be is there's spotlights, and so it's not going to reorder this gallery, even though I said load.
If you
So.
turn off the spotlights, will we go back to the, yes,
Yeah.
we got back to the gallery order you
Yeah.
had.
Yep. Yeah, so it's loaded. And so what if I wanted to go to the default, even though I've saved and I've loaded, then there's also the release video order. And that will unlock it, if you will, back to Zoom's natural video order as well. So I can undo it, I can load it again, or make changes and save it to update it, and so forth. So.
And I believe release doesn't go back to Zoom's order, it goes back to the last order that the person had on their screen.
No, I think it actually goes back to I believe that I've always had the experience where it says, hey, I don't take anything I've defined, you determine, Zoom, what order it's meant to be in. Now, whether that's a previous, I mean, if it was unlocked previously, it's going to be the same order with the exception of people coming and going. But it's that kind of time of arrival, type layout, and then all the exceptions that wrap around that with raised hands and stuff like that.
But since I have changed my personal order on my screen right now, if you said follow your order and then you release the order, I don't think mine would go back to Zoom. I think it would go to me, to what I did.
You're talking about when I release it, what your screen would do.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
don't think
it'll do-
about that perspective very often in a meeting, and so yeah, I missed that kind of shift of thinking. But yeah, it would go back to what you had. Absolutely. Yeah, okay. I've either forced what I had, or it will snap back to what you had. Absolutely. Okay. Very good. Any other thoughts around that, or anything else? I mean, change of topic is definitely, doable at this point. We've talked about recording, some layouts, just kind of rolling with it. David?
I have a question. And again, I apologize, I don't have my ears in. The videos in waiting rooms, do you have to be, do the participants have to be on a certain release of Zoom in order to see those, or do you just have to be on a certain release in order to add them in?
Yeah, so you're teeing me up. It's as if we planned this. Let me share. This has been an area of wonder for me. I've theorized. I've posted it on a forum out there. Haven't gotten a sure answer. I haven't written anybody I know inside Zoom yet, but because now I think I have the answer. But my world was triggered by this experience first. when I hosted the Zoom Test Kitchen, so I'd start the meeting, and then over on either my PC or Mac, if I would launch Zoom OSC and tell it to join the meeting, it would not join it. It would just try and stop and try and stop and give me like this error 100. And I think somebody did reply, you must have a certain version requirement or above that the Zoom OSC client can't satisfy. And so I went in and double checked. I didn't think that was the case, and we do not on this account globally, not even just my account, but globally in the DVE stores world, a minimum version stated. So there's no minimum requirement defined, because that is a feature of its own. You can require this version or newer, and if you do that, then you can apply. You can actually define this version for that platform, this version for that platform. Like I think Android, iOS, Chrome, and so you can break it all down. Didn't become a hugely popular feature because there's a lot of organizations that simply won't allow their employees to just apply updates and so forth without a fully vetted process that's been approved, and so much time and all that has passed. So, but then the behavior is happening, as if the client can't connect, and it won't. And I thought, wow, that's really bizarre. That can't be the problem. It's got to be, Zoom OSC. But it used to work on this machine for the longest time. So I decided, well, let me host a meeting with a different account, one of my own pro accounts. And I did, and I connected to it just fine with the Zoom OSC client. And I thought, okay, what's going on here? So what I believe I've learned now is this. I'm sharing the screen. So I'm in the settings area of a meeting, and so the question from David was, it's not that it's limited to this area, but I think this area will queue it up, and so this video. So how many of you saw at least part of, if not all, the video? I know Ray's really fast about letting people in from the waiting room, but there is a video in the waiting room of the Zoom Test Kitchen. It should have auto-played, but it doesn't auto-unmute. I did add an audio track to it this week. That wasn't there last week. And so, and I think I even used copywritten music because it's just a private viewing, from me to you, and it's not a streamed experience. So if you by chance not only saw it but happened to click to unmute it, you would have heard music as well as seen the video. But a small indicator here says this feature is only available with version 5.7.3 or later. The question, I think, to David's point is, well, does that apply to both me, the one who's hosting it, and the recipient using it? So I'm going to reference these notes that are new because this yellowish note doesn't show itself inside the waiting room video. But when it comes to a feature, allow participants in the waiting room to reply to hosts and co-hosts, for instance. It says this feature is only available with version 5.8.0 or later. And then it goes on to say, by enabling this, all participants using older versions of Zoom will be asked to upgrade their clients before joining the meeting. Only because I have the feature enabled, it will automatically not force an update, but will prompt you to update. If you can, you'll do it. If you can't, because maybe corporate policy or whatnot, then you'll have to opt out, but you won't be able to come into the meeting as well. And so there's this kind of built-in, and what happened in between the setting the minimum client version and I'll say, it was preceded and is being followed with rapid development, rapid releases from Zoom. They update their product a lot and often, and it is really hard to keep track of, hey, I want that new feature. Well, then you're leaving people out. Like there's participants who show up who can't participate in like advanced polls and so forth. So let's go here. That's probably one. Let me type in quiz, and this this is meeting polls and quizzes. Allow host to create. It's a separate option. You can turn on polls, but the advanced is a separate option that you can check mark. And with that, it says, if this option is selected, host will be able to create polls that include single, multiple, drop-down, etc. Host will also be able to set correct answers. Users below 5.8.3 will not be able to view or participate in advanced polls. That is different than not being able to join the meeting, right? So they won't. I don't know for sure that they'll be prompted to update. I don't think this one will force a prompt to update their client, but it won't allow them to be able to participate in the advanced polls and quizzes, but it does allow them to attend the meeting where if you weren't on a certain version to experience the waiting room, for instance, the way it's implemented, you actually can't join the meeting because of its specific requirements. So, glancing through options and looking for these yellow highlights, there's special notes, but some of these newer features, I started to see were indicators to me that these features, because I have them enabled, and I enable almost everything because of the Zoom Test Kitchen. We want to be able to, get our hands on it and so forth. So breakout rooms. The new stuff here is this one right here. Allow hosts to create, rename, delete breakout rooms even while they're open. That's never been available before up until about a week or two ago. And I had to call support to ask them to turn it on because I knew they released it, but you have to request it. And it says, this feature is only available with version 5.9.3. There isn't anything newer than that right now. that is today's version, right? So it's a really advanced feature, really fresh feature, and it says when this option is selected, participants who do not update their clients will be unable to join the meeting. Period. Like that's a stopping point to be able to get into the meeting. So there's certain new features that have done, but that have that lockout ability. So you have to be careful about it. But you also, being aware that you really don't have to worry too awful much about it because Zoom's aware that this meeting has kind of this level of, if it went through all the features that are turned on and said, version requirement, and then sorted it to latest version to oldest, and that latest version becomes based on features that are turned on, that becomes the minimum requirement for everybody, then it will automatically prompt everybody, to update if they need to. And it's a fairly painless process. It's that that group that corporately can't update because they're on a corporate laptop or whatnot, and via policy they just can't comply. So, anyways, so Talon says this is why I can't enable any of the new features for my clients. Exactly right, and verify that they just don't see the polls. It says you're saying they can still enter, and their
for the
text
advanced
on there.
polls only. That's what I was replying to there.
So yeah, but that's not in line. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just saying it's not aligned with this, because this says when this option is selected for the advanced. Oh, this is breakout room. Sorry. You
Correct.
said
Yeah, yeah,
pause.
yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't even gotten to play with that yet because of the
Yeah.
requirement.
So yeah, the advanced polls, users below 5.8.3, yeah, will not be able to view, but which means they can join the meeting, but they just won't be able to participate in the advanced polls. And so some let you be, kind of just hang. Out of 900 and some odd people in this meeting last Saturday, we had almost a full gallery page of people who couldn't get to breakout rooms. They just wouldn't move. And, I mean, that's not always about the platform that they're on, whether it's a phone or Chromebook or, a platform issue or a version issue. Sometimes they just walk away from their computer, right? And when we open those breakout rooms, it prompts and says, you're being sent to this breakout room. Do you want to go? And you have to click yes or no. And we tell everybody that. And if they're not there, they're not there. So they just sit there. So, it's just understanding all the behaviors and realizing in that case where I've got, several, 25 people probably that, wouldn't leave the main session. To understand the whole behavior is to understand this isn't your problem to fix. Because you can try and you can attempt, but just try once and attempt it, and if it doesn't work, they're probably just not at their computer. There's nothing you can do about it. Those who want to move and have not been able to move, they'll write you in chat or they'll come on the mic and say something about it, and you can give it your best. So anyways, those yellow noted indicators are fairly fresh. So really pay attention to them closely and read them super close. They really kind of have to say that they won't be able to join the meeting, or they won't be able to participate with the full intention of that feature. There's really a distinguishable difference to at least you can say, well, they can still join the meeting, and be in the meeting, but versus completely isolate them out of the meeting. Yeah, Lois.
So I'm wondering if they have made or will at some point in the future talk about making something where you can shut down somebody's connection to the meeting, like they've walked away from it and they're just not there, and yet have them come back into the meeting. Right now, I believe that if I kick someone out, they can't come back in. Is that an option, or is there something about that one could do?
Well, you have the remove option, which you just talked about. So you can remove somebody from the meeting, and then dependent, you kind of have to be careful about that, because dependent on what you've set in your portal, there's an option that says people who have been removed can rejoin or not. You either have that turned on or you have that turned off. I find it easier. One, it's really difficult to know for absolute fact that they're not there. Like they're logged in, but they're not there. So that's a hard decision to firmly make. But if you feel like you have a method of doing that, then I think it's easier just to, in the participants window, just click on the more button next to their name and send them to the waiting room. And so it gets them out of the way. It gives them a video to watch if there's a video. If you have messaging, realize on the waiting room messaging, they can't write the first message to you, the host, but they can, if you've got it enabled, they can reply to you, the host, if you write to them even while they're in the waiting room. And so it's hard for them to, if they came back and they were in the waiting room and you're not writing messages to the waiting room very often, it would be very hard for them to establish communication and say, hey, let me in.
Yeah. That's great to know about. You can put people in the waiting room instead of just kicking them out. What has happened occasionally, and unfortunately more than once, is that one of the co-hosts was trying to rename a participant, and instead of clicking on rename, clicked on remove. They're gone. Now, they can't ever get back until the meeting is closed and reopened, right?
Yeah, I always disable that feature to like block those people because
Yeah.
I did that very early on. So
I did it once as well, and I think in webinar you can undo it. There's a data access point deep in webinar, but I don't believe in meetings you can remove that choice that says, oh, I did it, how do I take them out of that database? And I believe webinar, it's been a long time, but I believe webinar you can kind of, I end up with a list of people who have been removed, and I can remove that. But in meetings that's not available, and so it's a stop and restart. But yeah, I did the same thing. I've always had on since then allow removed participants to rejoin the meeting, and the deal is especially knowing that we can send them when they show back up. I don't ever turn off the waiting room, and so when they show back up, they're going to be in the waiting room, and so I just leave them there, and or if they happen to get by us, we can send them there, and so it is one of those deals. And like had one, and you can report them as well, so that they get tagged to the trust advisory group at Zoom if they did something completely offensive or illegal or whatnot as well.
Daniel's had his hand up for some time.
Yeah, Daniel, thanks.
Let me see if I can remember the question I was going to ask.
Sorry about that.
Give me a moment. I'll remember it.
Okay. Yeah. Chime in whenever it comes back to you.
So, Jeff, can you put me in the waiting room so I can see the video and I don't have to go all the way out and come all the way back in? And Ray, don't you dare let me in for at least.
You cut her off, right? Yes, you did.
You're in the waiting room.
You can.
And I won't cut her off. I'll let her stay there for a while.
Yeah. That's funny.
She'll sneak in under another name.
Yeah. If there's anybody else who wants to, do that for the sake of the video.
I remember my question about.
Sure.
About advanced polling. Do you have to restart the room before you can do polls if you change the setting, or do you actually? What sort of? I know there at one point in time, I remember there was something that I had to set up, and then I had to leave the room and restart the meeting in order to do. Do you know which functions qualify under that?
So as far as if the feature has to be enabled from, in my world, it's, the zoom.us domain, the portal is what I call it. If it has to be enabled from back there first, then that has to be accomplished prior to starting to host the meeting. If you get into the meeting and you realize that advanced polls and quizzes are not enabled, and you just stay in the meeting and go turn it on, it's not going to do anything until you literally end the meeting and restart it, and then it will bring that functionality in with it. I think, bear with me a second, let me double check on that particular feature. In a meeting, I schedule a new meeting and go into options, allow save, breakout there. So it's not part of the, I was just double checking to make sure that there wasn't anything also in the meeting scheduling that had to be changed for like polls in advanced. That's fine. If you, there is one tiny little note. If you ran into that is it's not. This is scheduling a new meeting, and so if you had the advanced polls off and you had to go back and turn it on. If you also by chance had alternative hosts defined, then, you know, if for instance I put Guy in here to be an alternative host, if you have an alternative host and now you have advanced polls and quizzes activated, you can, and your intention is to let Guy manage those, you'll have to also come in while the meeting has ended. You have to come in here and check mark allow alternative host to add or edit polls. As an alternate host, you have to, yeah, it can be an alternate host and not have that right, but they can also be an alternate host and be given that right now as well. That's that's new. That's 5.8. That's not all that long ago that additional, you know, option became available. So that's a small piece. But yeah, if you didn't have the feature on and it takes going back to the portal to enable it, you're going to have to kill the meeting and restart the meeting. So be real thorough. That's the hard part, you know. It's when you know, I do a lot of freelance work, and when I show up and it's not my account and I don't have, you know, sometimes I do have host access because they'll create accounts for us, but if I don't have host access, it's actually kind of a nerve-wracking first entry, because, you know, if I have to run a show and you know, we've had a meeting, you know, with a producer and we know the requirements, first thing I'm logging in, I'm looking for polls, I'm looking for chat features, I'm looking for breakout room, you know, for those things to be on and available, and then and hopefully it's just a rehearsal. You know, if it's a rehearsal, then you'll come back, and between the rehearsal and production, you'll have those things turned on. But you have to, you know, go tell somebody you don't know who manages, you know, all the hosted accounts that this needs to be enabled. And then, well, there was one, we ran into it, and it was a big company, big medical group, and the security team simply said, no, we won't try. I was recording, it was local recording. And because we were assigned, part of our job was to record the breakout rooms that we were moderating, and so I was assigned to one, and they were assigned to one, and we couldn't. They would not. The security team would not enable local record privileges inside of Zoom so that we could go do our job, and so, you know, it's just one of those things, you know. I don't think it's a requirement of a Zoom moderator to locally in their home studio or business studio be prepared to record locally not using Zoom. I think that's a big ask that should require a bigger bill or invoice to accomplish that, because one, it's the tool, it's the reliability, it's a high level of liability, and then it's post-event time too, you know, to get it uploaded somewhere and so forth. So there's just more responsibility written around that. But needless to say, those things occur. So sometimes you can't always get those, you know, features turned on when it's not your account either. Yeah, Ray.
In the case, Jeff, where you're recording it offline, the announcement doesn't come up. And is that a concern of most people? I would think it would.
You know, I mean, I think it's the perfect rebuttal to their security team, who thinks they hold all the privileges and power to make those decisions. They say, you realize the decision that you're making not to enable it, and I still have to fulfill the requirement of you, not the security team, but your CEOs and so forth, to record the local breakouts, means that I'm going to do it in a much less secure fashion, because I'm going to literally have a copy of everything you've shown and said, versus you're the only one who will end up having a copy if you would have just enabled the feature. I mean, it's a perfect point that, you know, they've actually created a worse circumstance, if you will, as far as security goes, because it was security team who made it, than was even necessary. So yeah,
I don't know of a Zoom test kitchen type environment now where the security team would be invited, so they could learn all of this stuff? Is there a subgroup at Zoom
I
that
would,
does
I
that?
would, I wouldn't host it. I wouldn't do it.
Chicken?
I sold into data centers for years, and security teams are not my friends, and they're very, very difficult to not only work with but to converse with. Some of them have come to reality, you know, and are very professional and reasonable to communicate with, but some are you know, the old IT were people marching around with stop signs and they had the power to stop anybody from doing anything they wanted. That's pretty much all gone away, with the exception of the exceptions and some security teams. They still do that. And I get it, but when the ones that are the toughest are, you know, that the only reason they're saying no is because of their naivety, period. It's not about the lack of functionality or improvement to a product or whatnot. It's their naiveness, and they won't give you the opportunity to say, if you would just go read or talk to the sales engineer or whatever, right? They just kind of.
We did have a corporate client recently who wanted a separate meeting with their security team. So before they said no to anything, at least they'd have a thorough understanding, both from what the chairman was offering, but also from what the production company was able to deliver. It was almost a 2-hour-long meeting with a lot of discovery, that they had certain understandings that were reversed as a result of that meeting.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's absolutely fair for for them to have a rundown, you know, of what's going to be happening and how, and you know, and I think it's fair if you're attached, right? If you're attached to their domain, but you know, if it's completely outside source and outside account and the whole bit, and nothing's coming from inside, with the exception of like intellectual property, right? You know, PowerPoints and so forth. Then yeah, I think it's fair for them to have a rundown. But I think it's equally fair that they show up as well studied as possible, you know. So, you know, give them, you know, the list of tools that will be used. It's Zoom or it's WebEx or, you know, Skype or whatever the case is, whatever the tools are that are going to be used, so that they can become briefed on the certifications that Zoom has achieved and so forth coming into the meeting, because you know, just having a technical moderator or producer, you know, they're not going to be at a level of being able to state what a systems engineer out of a Zoom or company of the like would be able to speak to with authority as well. So, but yeah, it's valid. There's no question. Yeah, Lois.
So I want to report on my experience while I was out of the room. And the waiting room video was very nice. I would make one suggestion to make it even nicer, is on that first screen, down at the bottom, have a little thing that says you can turn on sound here, and point to that little sound button, because I would never have noticed that if somebody didn't say, oh gee, it's more than a slideshow, there's actually music.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just a drag and drop on my part. You know, it's the same pre-roll that I roll inside the meeting before we start. So I didn't produce anything special, but I mean, I think you make a good point, you know, especially on it's muted by default. And I don't know if I don't recall if the muted speaker even shows until you at least move your mouse over the area.
It showed.
Yeah,
It was a little
okay.
tiny sign with an X on it.
So yeah, no, I think and I mean, the waiting room's a perfect place for, you know, whether it's going to be marketing or instructions or housekeeping or, you know, things like that. That's where you want people to get some of that grounding information.
Is that, are you, can you put a link in, I know not a video, but can you put a text with link in it, in there? Will the link work?
I believe, I don't know for sure. I haven't tested it in a waiting room.
Well, maybe next week we can
do it in
try it.
invitations, but yeah, we'll I just about ended this meeting. I was going to I was jumping over to my browser here just to go look at the meeting room options and stuff, and I just happened to be like right there, and I was clicking to get focus, but happened to be right on the red button and didn't see it, and ended up getting a prompt to end this meeting. I'm like, no. So, anyways, things happen, that's for sure. But yeah, well, and I will point out. Let me go ahead and share that back. Is under the settings and the waiting room. When you go into customize it, you can. You've got a title area there. Welcome to, which is the title. The meeting topic is what is put into the name of your meeting. That's the name of your meeting when you schedule it, and so that's the Zoom Test Kitchen, I think. Yeah, there's no. I mean, you'd have to go back to logo and description to get more content, free content area.
You could try putting a link in the title.
Yeah. I mean, you can test it in the title, and see. So
You could also use a hashtag in a case where you can't do a long title or a URL link. It's easy to create a little hashtag that's easy for people to go search and find.
Yeah, let me just do a Zoom hashtag just for the heck of it, and let's see how it treats it. My guess is it's going to treat it quite literal, but I'm gonna save that Zoom hashtag, which is real, and then while we're here, let's also put in.
Always branding, always branding.
Yeah. So I'll paste in. Oh, see, that got too long. Let's just do. I think that fit. We've got the hashtag and a link both. Let's see how it interprets it. So now let's send Lois.
You're gonna kick me out again, huh?
Waiting room. Well, see what she comes back with there. Always good questions, good detail. Yeah, Ken.
KJ has a question.
It's one you guys were talking about the different ways to use the waiting room video, and maybe it was 2 weeks ago someone mentioned, and for anyone who wasn't here, it was a really good idea. I'm with an international organization a lot, and we use the interpretation. And someone came up with the very good idea of putting instructions for that, how to use the interpretation feature in that waiting room intro, and then making sure to leave people there that long. So that they would see that in different language, hear it and see it in different languages. So just for anyone who wasn't here during that meeting, that was an excellent suggestion that we've implemented actually.
Really great reminder, and it was the implementer of it for sure. Who probably brought that up was Robert Sababity out of Poland, I think. Yeah. And his whole business is translation or language interpretation, and I mean, I've made many of slides and sent it to a group to put in their deck of snapshots of the toolbar and highlighting this button, and it's one of those things where you take little things like this. You say you coach the customer and you say just give them a little verbal guidance. I'll bring up the share here, and just let them know to raise their digital hand. Now, 2 years in, most people know how to do that but it's really dependent on who your audience is, right? And so you encourage them to raise their digital hand. Well, there's nothing down here indicating a digital hand. And so only the experienced will know that you have to go to the reactions button. And last Saturday, I even had somebody type in the chat, it's not even under the reactions button, which I think, that's probably crazy person number one in the meeting, because it's definitely there. There's no question. I've never, ever, ever not had it there with all this other stuff. It didn't used to, be tucked away, but now, now it's tucked away. I can't do this on the fly, but these are two separate. I can't remember what they're called. What are they? Emoticons? What does Zoom call them? Not emoticons, icons. Yeah, yeah. So there's nonverbal feedback is one of those sections of icons, and the other one is meeting reactions. So nonverbal feedback is yes, no, slow down, speed up, coffee cup, and so forth. The other one is clap, heart, laugh, and so forth. And so you can actually turn these off, one or both of those items. If you don't have a need for that feedback and those icons and so forth, and you in fact have a bigger need for raise hands because you're going to have an interactive collaborative meeting, if you turn those two others off, raise hand will become a raised hand icon on the toolbar, and it won't be hidden. And so you can't force raised hand out there on its own, but you can in kind of a secondary manner by turning off all the other reactions if you can afford to do that. And I leave them on for the Zoom Test Kitchen, but I don't ever see this. Certainly there are people who will use these emoticons and so forth, but it's not like I don't get customers that go, yeah, we have to have those on. I mean, raising hands is often I have to. So just to know that if you turn those other two off, you will get the actual hand right up front. And so the instructions become much simpler and sometimes not even necessary when they can see it right there on their toolbar.
And the emoji hand, some people think that that is raising your hand. And so if you get rid of that emoji line, then they won't get confused, and Zoom will recognize they've raised their hands and put them up here in the corner with me.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
a report to you from having been kicked out, brought back. Oh my goodness. There's nothing changed. I have a feeling that it wouldn't change until the meeting restarted because it's exactly the same as it was. No extra, well, no, wait a minute. I'm wrong. It still had the video, even though you had removed video. It still had.
No, I didn't remove
the
video.
title was there, and then it said Zoom Test Kitchen under it, but it wasn't a link.
It was the hashtag there? 'Cause
Yes,
that
the
was what was first, yeah. So, yeah, I didn't remove
maybe I
the
didn't see it.
video. The video should have still been there, which you said it was, but I edited the title.
But you
Right
had clicked
there.
off of video.
Oh, yeah, you're right, I did. Oh, I didn't, no, I did save it.
No, okay, so
Interesting.
I'm wrong.
Okay.
It was not like that. It had words, but it wasn't those words. So no, none of that came up.
So the untested piece of this, because we're on the non-video version, is if I were to take the YouTube channel, the YouTube channel link and put it in the description also, that would be, and so now the question is does that become a real link or literal text? So why don't you check that out. Now that would be, you wouldn't be able to use the video we've proved that you can't get a link in when there's a video, but on the non-video version, let's have you go take a look.
But
at that.
unless you restart, I don't think it makes any difference. Okay, kick me out, bring me right back. I don't have to stay there very long.
All right. Jill, looks like Jill dropped. Okay.
Nope, it's
Yeah,
still
Andre.
like it was the first time I came in, 12:30 or whatever it was. It has not changed at all.
So you still see video?
I still see video. The words
Okay.
are the previous words, so there's
Yeah,
none of that.
yeah. So it's initially
Try it next week.
like most things. Yeah, I get sucked into the config when I start the meeting. That makes sense. Yeah, I'll leave it like that and try. I'll probably just test it right after we finish here. Andre.
Yes, hello. I got two questions regarding this option to let only people with newer browser in.
You're very low.
Yeah, you need to
Oh,
turn your
sorry.
mic up.
Wait a second, I go nearer, and maybe...
That's better. Yep.
Wait a second. Oh no, it's maxed out. Okay, so I have to talk louder, sorry. So you have this option to force participants to get newer clients, to get this new functionality. Does this also apply to browser, or can people then join by browser when you have this option checked?
Well, so we talked about a couple of things. So there is this was, I don't think it's gone. It just never, I don't think it ever got used a whole lot. But prior to the auto updating and so forth that's in place now, there was this ability to set a minimum version. And let me see if I can go find that while we chat about it as well. But with that, let me find this real quick because it shows you visually the how it really breaks things down. Let me see if I can.
The version only applies to the app, though. If you're coming in on a browser, there is no app, so there is no version number.
Well, I mean, the browser represents something. Well, it's kind of like a third-party developer, represents a version of their SDK. I don't know how the browser translates that, but here I'll show you where it is. So under the settings, but these are admin. These are account settings on this enterprise and business account would have this for sure. But it's the deep level settings. I don't remember what they call the master admin settings versus the individual account settings. But when you get there, it says require users to update the client. And you see it's not enabled, but require users who are using older versions of Zoom to update to a minimum client specified. And it says please use this option only if users are on a client version 4.5.4 and above. So with that, if I were to enable this, it says this setting will be enabled for all groups and users because it's at this kind of master admin account owner level, and so it affects everybody up above. It's not my account can affect this. This has to be done at a Guy Cochran level, if you will. And the reason I can example this is he's given me the privileges to do this and show it and so forth. But I'll definitely turn this off before we're done because it'll affect everybody in his company. So anyways, you can enable this, and when you do, that's when you get this big breakdown. And let me shrink the text a little bit. Where did it go? There we go. So once you've got it enabled, then it says apply to users within the account only, so inside your organization, and or apply it to users within and external users as well. And so then it says choose the minimum client versions below. So what version do you want to require for Windows, Mac, VDI, Linux, iOS, and Android. That's the distinguishing platforms at that. But those are all clients. Those are not
So nothing about browsers.
web. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I mean, and I would say, if you're getting to that level where, yeah, so that turned back off. When you're getting to that level of, minimum requirements, then I would guess that it would probably become pretty applicable to when you're scheduling a meeting at that point, that not only to require authentication, but it's not there. It's not what I wanted. Is under my account settings is who under what circumstances are allowed to join and so forth. So you got the password, participants joining by phone, only authenticated or not. And then, only authenticated users can join meetings from a web client. And then,
And the funny thing is, you can write in every email address you want. I took like heinz@heinz.de and it was no problem.
to block them or allow them.
No. When you join by browser and you want the people to register by email, you can type in every email you want. It seems to be only to get some email address, but they don't link it to any kind of account or anything.
Yeah, the browser, I don't know all the rules around. I know it's a lot looser. Like, the account that's hosting this meeting right now, I can easily, if I go to one of my laptops next to me and log in with the same account, I'll get signed out of this one. Now, it won't kill my meeting, but it will log me out of this client on this initial meeting. But if I logged into my iPad, a mobile device, it won't do that, even with the client, with it being the client, even versus. But if I went to the same laptop that I logged in as my account here, and it logged me out once I logged in over there with the client, if I stopped the client and did it via the browser instead, it won't log me out over here. It'll let me be logged in multiple times if one is a client and the others are browsers. And so I'm not sure. I mean, it does. You can lock it down somewhat here. It says only authenticated users can join meetings from the web client. So if they're coming in via the web, they have to at least authenticate with Zoom. But outside of that, there is a lot of freedom. Now, if you let me do this Zoom platform feature comparison, I think. This helps some, this table. Oh, that's not the one.
I'm on with the browser now in case you want to ask anything about the experience.
Okay, hang on just a sec. So,
Yeah, video is
so
much
they do
better,
have,
much
this
worse.
table that helps with, what features, are available, and then a little bit above, there's some notes and so forth, but it breaks down with some footnotes as well. But these from the PWA client, the web client, Chrome, and then the clients as we know them as well, Windows and Mac, of things that, if you're coming in
what is
via the web or
PWA?
Chrome, you won't be able to do these blank areas, where it's, pretty rich here. So, big weakness on the browser, schedule one time a recurring meeting. You can't do that with Chrome or a web client. the share your screen in a Zoom room, display upcoming meetings. I mean, there's just these blanks. That's what I look for is white spots. Like, what can't I do? Save the in-meeting chat, things like that. Local record naturally. And there's another big section down
Jeff,
here.
what is PWA?
Let me go remember. Let's see if I can. Oops. Let's just ask. I can't. It's not off the top of my head here. Zoom PWA. Progressive web app. It's Chrome. Using Zoom for Chrome PWA. And so it's a Chrome thing. What is, I guess we could take it a step further and say, what is Chrome PWA? Using progressive web apps. Faster web experience, computer, mobile device. So it's a particular platform on Chrome, apparently, that is meant to create a better user experience, it looks like, at a glance. Enough popularity where Zoom is, catering to it, and my guess would be the reason we don't know a whole lot about it, but Zoom has actually put development dollars to it, is that it has to do with education and the popularity of the devices. A lot of Chromebooks and so forth in the education space. Plus this PWA looks like add-on to that. So that would be my guess. All right, Lois, hit us.
Well, one thing about the Chromos experience is my keyboard shortcuts don't work. So, but the buttons at the bottom are pretty similar. I can even obviously raise my hand with the reactions. The biggest thing was, I don't know how long Ray was seeing me in the waiting room before I came in. It seemed like it was quite a long time, and so I thought maybe you weren't seeing me, so I went and I opened up the application and got in that way, and then all of a sudden I was let in by both. So it was like very interesting.
I heard it dinging, and I think Gray was taking great pleasure of leaving you out there, and I say that facetiously, and but then I paid attention to the ding, and I saw that you were there twice, so I just let both of you in, thinking maybe Ray had stepped away or something like that.
So the interesting thing is that this time when I went out, I wasn't leaving from here to go to the waiting room where nothing had changed. But when I left the meeting and I came back into the meeting, now it is showing what you put up in that last change you made. So there's no video anymore, but the links do not work. The links are not clickable. You could highlight and copy them, I assume.
Sure. Yeah, they're just
that's your report.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, just literal text. So, all right. Well, very good. Good stuff. Anything else?
I have a question.
Andre.
Lois, you want to go ahead? Okay. Jeff, you said you weren't able to log into this meeting by Zoom OSC anymore because you made this requirement for upgrade and then shut it down again.
I didn't apply. I tried to connect via OSC, and I could not, and it gave me these error 100s in the logs, but not. And then I went and confirmed there was no minimum client set. What I've derived since this troubleshooting began is it's because I have one or two of these latest features enabled that basically what's happening is OSC is trying to connect. Zoom is saying, hey, you need to update. OSC says, I have no ability to do that, and just kicks itself back out. And that I believe is it's a little bit of the unseen of what's happening behind the scenes. I'm almost confident now. I think I could fix it if I were to turn off these new features in the Zoom Test Kitchen's meeting, then on my account, then Zoom OSC could. I mean, because I've used this meeting for going on 2 years, and we did the Zoom OSC Test Kitchen in here, and same meeting, and so it definitely had a lot longer working. I think it's just the SDK just can't be changed and can't comply to that, and so it just logs in and just kind of gives it an effort, comes back out and stops. And if I look in the logs, it's a error 100, I think, but that's kind of about it. So.
But it would be interesting to see if you can bring us back to this behavior before when you check off the new possibilities.
Because,
Because,
if I were to
otherwise
turn off the features.
It's really a bummer if you can't use Zoom OSC anymore. Depending on what your client is doing.
Yeah, I think it. I would go for potentially probably the advanced waiting room now with video, and the advanced polls and quizzes would be the first two that I'd probably go turn off. And if that happened to still not work, then I would disable the advanced breakout room piece, because those are the three that I recall were the latest, newest stuff. Yeah, Lois.
So the advanced waiting room, is that, I mean, I did see a waiting room. I'm on a browser. Am I on a browser able to participate in your advanced polls?
We can, I think I've already got one. Let me go in and edit here. Just say I think I'm already doing an advanced here. So this is how many hosts can you have in a single Zoom meeting, single choice, duplicate, upload.
What is the difference between polls and advanced polls?
There's advanced has instead of just single or multiple choice, there's now matching and rank and short and long answers, and then you can also here, let me share. You can also convert any poll to a quiz. So are you seeing? Yeah, you're seeing the questions. So there's one question that's just been in here for a long time, and so when you go in and edit this, you can make it a single and a multiple choice, which has always been there for polls, but now you can also make it a matching or a rank. So maybe a survey of radio buttons and scores, one scale of 1 to 5 or whatever, and or a short answer and a long answer to gather data, or fill in the blank in a rating scale. As well here you can add graphics to poll questions, and and then you've got that, whether it's required or not, shown as a drop down or radio buttons. And there's your upload image. You can delete that, and you can also allow participants to answer anonymously, and you can make a quiz. And so I've said make it a quiz, and so it says please set the answer, and so I'll say the right answer is that, and I save that, and I'll launch the poll, and now you can see the poll. So Michael and Andre, Kuhn, Lois, do you see the advanced poll? Question number 1. Okay. So you've got that, and then I'm seeing that we've got some answers there. One, here, I'll pull it over here. provide a better background. There we go. So this is what I'm seeing on the back end, right? So I see, how many of 5 have answered number 1, how many of 5 have answered number 2, how many of 5 have answered the third option, and the graphics there. And so everybody said they answered there. 100% have answered. I'll go ahead and end the poll, and I can get a glance at the results, and then I can share those results, and you'll see the shared results as well. So let me stop sharing so we can see that.
Why did it say 7 was 100%?
I don't know that I saw that. I don't see 7 anywhere. There's
We
only
had 7.
5
No, I'm
total.
sorry, 5 answers, but why does it say?
Oh, you got muted.
Is it because it's only counting people with cameras on?
Yeah, those that can participate. Yeah, so, well, we got, 5 of 5. So you get 5 cameras, 5 people that are present.
And it doesn't
So if my camera
count
was off,
host and
it wouldn't.
co-host.
Say it again, Andre.
Sorry, it doesn't count host and co-host because they can't vote.
Yeah, so, well, and so we have a total of 10 participants, and so that's minus, that would be 8. 8 that are not, and we're seeing 5. The 5 was 5 original. I mean, where would 5 have been derived prior to Lois turning her camera off? Would have been cameras on, which I would not have.
Yes, it would be 5.
But
you
cameras
and
on
Ray are a
included
host.
host.
No, Lois. Host and co-host can't vote, so they don't count.
Correct. They
We are
don't.
5
Yeah,
with
they don't
cameras on when
contribute to
you
the
are there.
total. Well, that's true. My camera would not have contributed to that.
Did the Zoom Test Kitchen streamer vote?
Zoom Test Kitchen streamer would, but the camera's not on. So I don't think it's tied to camera. I think
Well,
we
let's
think
try
it
it.
is, but I don't
I
think
can
it
turn my
is.
camera off and let's see if I can see the poll when you start it.
Yeah, you should.
So I've relaunched. Says on my screen it says 0 of 7 right now. So no Jeff, no Ray, and so we got Michael, Andre, Kuhn, Streamer, Jeremy, Ken, and Lois. That's the 7. So cameras on, cameras off. You all got added into the total. So that's 7 minus the hosts and co-hosts. So we had 10, 9 minus 2 hosts and co-hosts.
And it did come up on my screen, even though I had no.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to jump into another meeting pretty soon.
All righty. Well,
Anything else you want to test with the browser?
No, there's I think the browser deserves kind of its own time for and demand to really kind of hammer on it. To start it at 2 hours into this meeting, I think it would be asking too much time on that, but certainly put it on my list of areas to research. Well, good seeing you, Lois. Thanks for coming and participating. Your
At least
questions
we
are
know
always
it's a way
great.
around. At least we know it's a way around the having to upgrade your app in order to get into a meeting.
Yeah, you may just not be able to experience quite everything, but you got the polls even. So we will see you next week, Andre.
Yes. Last week we spoke about Internet Clicker, and I had this event in the meantime and had some problems with handing over from one panelist to another. And I wonder how you do it and what your experience is, because we did the onboarding, everyone tried to once click its PowerPoint. Then we had the event, and I think all the PowerPoints were like opened in the background, and the guy who the PowerPoint jockey was always bringing the live PowerPoint in full screen mode. And but there were some issues with the panelists connecting to the Internet Clicker website, or the correct layout, so to say. And I wonder, what is your experience?
All right, so I'll probably just verbalize unless I can quickly get this visible. Bear with me just a second.
And do you only use one license or more?
Just one. Okay, so let me see if I can. I'm trying to get my iPad into vMix is all. Bear with me just a second. Wasn't prepared for it, but I think we can make it happen. Okay. Yeah, so that's my iPad. So I can bring up Internet Clicker. And so, you know, that's their experience, whether it's a web browser or their phone, or this is my iPad, and pop in a code. And so I'm not ready for all that, but let me, do you have it on your end? Do you have Internet Clicker, a licensed version of Internet Clicker? Do you have it installed on your computer, Andre? There's an Internet Clicker like plug-in for PowerPoint or for Windows
I know.
or Mac.
I have to check if it's if I have it activated. 1 second.
If you have, I mean, I'll let you. I'll send you my key if you need one. I'll send that to you for this example, but.
Maybe I still have it in, but the computer first have to kind of wake up.
Yeah, my for now my the computer that I've got it all set up on is my streamer for this kitchen, so can't interrupt that one very easily right now. And don't burn tons more time on it if it's, you know, too much right now, Andre. We can just talk it through.
No, I'm nearly set.
Okay.
So I think I have it open.
If you have it, just, you know, whenever you're ready, give me a code.
Yes,
The code.
yes, okay, so the code is 12345.
Okay. That one's not working.
Wait a second, maybe I'm not connected yet.
make sure that whatever code you're going to have me use because we're streaming, that you don't use it again or keep it the same later.
Yes, I know. No, I can't use my key because it seems to be activated on another machine.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's just talk it through. I'll just talk through my practices, and so on event, let's say we've got 5 speakers. They've all independently built their own decks. They've organized in the sense that they've used the same template, right? So they all using the same fonts and so forth. Fonts are a challenge of their own, right? Because most people, this show I did a couple weeks back was, somebody came and hammered us. I was going back and forth. I said, hey, there's missing fonts, and always are, and I have this little script, VB script that I had gotten, and I run it inside the PowerPoint file, and it lists out every required font for that deck. And I sent that back to somebody and said, hey, we got missing fonts. Here's all the fonts that are required. I didn't do, hey, these are the ones I've got and these are the ones that are missing. I did the list of all the required fonts. And somebody came back and said, well, it's absolutely essential. It's like, hey, it's not my problem, man. I mean, I'm trying to help, but it's not my problem, right? And I said, there is another option during PowerPoint development, is how to embed fonts in your PowerPoint file. Google it. And when you build it and you go figure out, it's a checkbox, how to do that. Now when you save your PowerPoint, it'll have the fonts in it instead of being dependent on the system where the PowerPoint resides. And so, but next to nobody does that and pays attention to that. But that's kind of a different topic, but it's a sore spot in my world. So anyways, one of the first things I do is I collect all the decks and I make one master deck. And so I go to, the slide sorter on, let's say, deck number 1. And in the slide sorter, you can create sections. And so let's say this person has 25 slides. I create a section with their name on it, and those 25 slides are in that section. Now the section is collapsible, and so I can create a second section. And then on a different monitor, I open up the second deck, and I drag all those slides into that second section, which is the name of the next speaker, and so forth. So I end up having 5 sections that has all their slides in each one. And when you drag them in,
sorry, may I ask what sections are, or what kind of sections you mean?
Well, let me pull one up. I don't think I got somebody coming in that's named Onani Mouse, which is like anonymous, which I don't know who they are, and with a name like that, I'm not going to let them in until they leave and come back with a real name that I know. All right, let me. Okay, so here's a. Here's a deck, and when you go to the slide sorter view, you end up with all the different slides there, and this is just all the slides. What you can do is you can click on the background option and you say add section. Can you see this? And so you add a section, and I'll just say I'll call this the awards section. Now, it ended up in a funky spot. I didn't consciously click up top. And so there's a default section and an awards section because my mouse cursor had clicked in, a different area, this area. So it acted like an insertion. So I go, well, that was a mistake on my part, but not the end of the world. I'm just going to, click and shift click to select all the the top 2 rows, and I'm going to drag and drop them at the beginning. So now the default section is empty and everything's back to where it needed to be. So now I have, you know, the awards section. If I right click, I can rename that. I'll just put it in as like section 1, awards, and so you can expand them, you can collapse them, and so it just becomes this, you know, master deck of all these sections that you can manage and jump around to. Now, let me take a few of these and put them intentionally into section 1. And so here's section 1. Here's the awards. Let's say that's section 2. Let me create one more. Add a section. Just call it whatever. Section 3, and I'll drag a few of these for the sake of example to section 3. So now I've got section 1, I've got section 3, and I've got one called awards in the middle. So now while I'm in section 1, and let's say I start the presentation, let me reset this up so you can see it. It's popping up on my other monitor. Whoops. All right, so now I'm in slide mode, right? Presentation mode. And I'll turn off the closed captioning. Now, me as an admin, for instance, let's say, these are, oddities. Everything's in order as you know it. Rehearsal, they're first, they're second, they're third, and so forth. But things don't always roll as, as best plans may have it. Now, but because you have a master deck and you have sections that are in order and named in a useful manner, now in a quick hurry, if you had to, you could right click on slide. In presentation view, you can, where did it go? I might have to put my glasses on. I can jump. Last, see all slides, show presenter view, pointer. There's a section, there's a shortcut key or something here. Where did it go? I'll find it. That's captioning. This one? Yeah. I guess it is that one. So this icon in the middle gets you there. It shows you everything, but that's not important as much as saying go to section 3 like now, right? And when you go to section 3, it highlighted the first slide in section 3, so you can jump from section to section to section, and then just go back and you're there. And so it's not that you want to show something like that, but it's way faster with a little bit of visual interruption than trying to launch a deck or launch presentation mode of a different deck or different files and so forth. And the other benefit of a master deck is that you have a master deck that has everything, and in the master deck, if you install the internet clicker plugin to PowerPoint, you have one instance of PowerPoint that's connected to internet clicker. Now, all 5 speakers can all connect to your clicker code at the same time. And then the verbal guidance I provide them is, by the way, you're all connected to the same PowerPoint deck at the same time. Just understand, if while you're not speaking, if you click on forward or back, you will be affecting your peers' slide presentation. And they're all cool with that. All they need to know is that. Now, the next part is their device, their phone and or desktop, especially mobile devices, so phone or tablets, is while they're not speaking, their internet clicker session goes to sleep. And so they can, if they, there's a couple of things. Let's say I have my tablet and I load Internet Clicker on it with a browser, open the browser, go to internetclicker.com, type in the code, and I'm there. I've got the red button, green button. On the top right corner of that screen, there's a little gear icon. And one of the options is to turn this toggle on about don't go to sleep or whatnot. I don't remember what it says exactly. But you can tell it basically don't go to sleep. But I have found that when you turn that on, it's only effective if the device is plugged in. And so my iPad, I would want to have plugged into my charger. Then I can effectively toggle that don't go to sleep mode for Internet Clicker. Therefore, when it's their turn to speak, that's normally when there's problems, is the new speaker gets up on camera, I can't move my, and eventually it will, because, and if they look at their screen, it'll say attempting to reconnect to the server. And that's what it's doing, is it's waking it up and reconnecting to the Internet Clicker server, and then it's good to go. But there can be a few seconds before it actually successfully reestablishes that connection. So so either let them know that, hey, when you're up next and your peer is wrapping things up, that would be a good time to touch the screen of Internet Clicker just once to let it wake up and get reconnected, and then you'll be good to go. Or plug in your device, tell it not to go to sleep, and it will stay connected the whole time. That's the trickery and guidance that I provide along the way there.
Do you usually show the screenshot of the slides?
It depends on the client. I don't very often. I mean, I do have a main screenshot that I think I could do it off my iPad, but the Internet Clicker site had something way back when.
No, sorry. What I mean is, you have the option in this little cog icon to always stay awake and to show the screenshot. What means you see the slide, the presenters see the slide. You do this usually?
Oh, the next slide, so they can see the slide and they can see the next slide too. Sometimes, not a lot. Every once in a while, I'll get a speaker who really does value the presentation mode, if you will, for the presenter mode, so they can see what's coming, and then we go ahead and we turn that on. But that's really only useful if they're doing Internet Clicker on their desktop on an extra monitor or a tablet. A phone is just too doggone small to really effectively be useful to try to fit that much on such small real estate. So
thank you very much for this information.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a master presentation, but it was all over the place. Different setups like 16 by 9, 4 by 3. Everything different, and so there was no master possible, even not in the short amount of time.
Yeah, and you can, the other thing about the master, building the master, even if they don't match the style, PowerPoint these days is smart enough to know that. And so if you start with a 16 by 9 and you try to drag a group from another file in and it's a 4 by 3, it'll ask you, do you want to use the master slides of the existing deck or do you not? And when you say, no, don't use the existing master slides, I don't know how it does it. I haven't dug in deep to do it, but it creates it brings in its own set of masters. And so it keeps everything intact, even on these widely variety, of slide layouts, if you will, for the sake of building a successful master. Yeah, so it will prompt you.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Pleasure. Kuhn, you have anything? Jeremy, you got anything? Otherwise, I think we'll call it a wrap. I'm on the road all week next week. We have 2 different hybrid events that live. Some is live, some is remote, but be out traveling. No airplanes, just cars, but be out and about all week. So
How many people will you be in your tech team?
I think we've got 4 to 6 people and then doing load in, setup and running. You got a camera, 1 or 2 camera operators. We got the playback person. I'll do the vMix switching, which is we do our primary switching from ATEMs. They've got a switcher for that, and then I'll do the insertion of graphics, and then I'll stream it out into to the Zoom audience as well. I haven't been told that Zoom is coming back, like needing to collaborate back to the local. I've only been told that we're sending it out, so we'll see. But they said I don't know the numbers of anticipated on the first one is a first one or second. One of them is a 48-hour straight fundraiser, kind of like a telethon, if you will. But we'll go to bed at night and just put up like the donation board, and so everybody they'll still be able to see it, but there won't really be anybody running it other than just monitoring it, and then it'll come back and go live again. They said, I don't know what kind of turnout they get there, but then the other one will have about 300 people, about 50-50 in person and remote. So,
Jeff, real quick, I just want to say thank you guys. I was listening to you in the background there. I just actually just finished an event, Andre, using Internet Clicker, and used it for about a year now. It works great. I love it. And some new features are just now coming out as well, so I got to dive into that and see what other things I can offer them. I think the timer I started using today as well, and that worked out pretty good.
Yeah. Were either one of you here when we were doing the new built-in presentation control from Zoom?
Yes.
I didn't catch that, but I played around with it a little bit.
Yeah. Let's see if it just. I haven't used it in a real event yet, just because you want to build some time and confidence, right? But I'm pretty sure it will fly just fine. So I'm gonna share again this deck, and I do have my Zoom toolbar over here did show me what's called slide control now. The button is on the toolbar called slide control, and if I click on that, I see all the attendees in the meeting. I'm going to go ahead and pop this into presentation mode. You can see that, and then I'm going to give slide control to Andre and Jeremy, and you guys both should have been prompted now to have slide control in Zoom.
Yep, I see it on your bottom of your share there.
Okay, so you've accepted that. I'm going to turn off the captioning, and so now you see just the little circular right arrow, left arrow, right on the bottom left of the presentation. If you click on the right arrow just once, and that's just kind of an insurance that it's working and it's going forward, you can mouse it. I think that's hard for speakers because it's a pretty small area of real estate, for them to be able to speak and look in the camera and point and click, And so as long as you're going forward once, then I tell speakers from that point, just talk and press your space bar when you want to move the slides, because once you know it clicked forward once, you can either use your right arrow key or left arrow key, or press your space bar, and they can keep focus on the camera lens instead of being distracted with a mouse and clicking. And so it works really slick, and it's not. I'm over here. I'm working on Zoom. I'm working in my browser on another monitor. You're still advancing and moving slides. That whole battle between my mouse is your mouse and so forth is absolutely eliminated, and it's free. You know, I mean, you know, it's one of those things. It's not going to give you. At this point, you know, that presenter mode and time clocks and stuff like that, you know, that's where an internet clicker or there's another, there's a frog one or something like that. And what's that one? Remote frog or remote something. I haven't used it, but anyways.
I got to run though, guys. Thank you very much, Jeff. It was nice chatting with you.
Always good to see you, Jeremy. Take care, bud. But yeah, they'll always keep their edge, you know, because of the additional features. But yeah, but there's choices, you know. There's choice. Like, you know, if for some reason you're having problems with internet clicker, you know you can go to the presentation controls, and or vice versa. So I always like to have kind of some really well-known close, you know, backups for sure. All right, Andre Kuhn. It's getting late there, Kuhn. What is it, midnight? Almost midnight?
It's 11:30 now.
Yeah. Very
I was
good.
preparing some slides this evening, so I didn't pay much attention to the Zoom test kitchen. I was preparing some slides for our evening when we present the results of the election of the city council. It's on the March 16th, and we're running a big show. I'll tell you later about it, but we're running a big show to present the results. It's a 6-hour event which we be streaming to YouTube, etc.
Yeah.
And it's broadcasted on television too. Yes.
Cool. Very good. Well, good luck on that. Yeah, definitely report back. Let us know what worked, what didn't work, and hopefully it's all about what worked. And,
we've got it's a live show, so we've got six cameramen running around, and cameras on rails and on those
the
machines.
cranes and all.
Cranes, yes, cranes. So we're very excited, but it's consuming all my free time. So
no doubt. Well, you guys will do well. Being prepared makes all the difference in the world.
Yes, I know.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up with a little music and slides and put it in the archives. But you guys take care. Have a fantastic weekend.
Have a good night.
Always good to see you.
Bye.